Hello and thanks for checking out ChartGuys.com. We're proud to be one of the most successful technical analysis communities online, teaching you the skills to become a more confident, effective, and informed trader. Join our community of hundreds of analysts worldwide working together to learn the charts, generate profit, and achieve financial independence. For access to daily live chart analysis and market coverage, a thriving chat community, along with dozens of hours of exclusive educational materials. We look forward to seeing you. Let's check out some charts. Hello friends, let's look at the US MJ sector. The biggest difference that stands out to me between the Canadian MJ sector and the US MJ sector is how there's much less correlation in the US MJ sector. We have some names going up, some names going down. It's almost like they take turns during different days, and you don't see that in the Canadian sector due to being listed on higher exchanges and automated trading, keeping those names correlated much stronger than those names that are traded on the OTC that do not have as much automated trading going on. So checking in GWPH right now, GWPH is a potential weekly bear flag. It's a weak bounce attempt with a lack of follow through at this point. The daily time frame, you could say it changed the trend with this little higher low and higher high, but we didn't see significant follow through. So resistance is 150, 135, and support is going to be down at the low 132.78 and 132.35. And it's just not a convincing move yet for the bulls. Nice solid 2-day move, but giving a good chunk of it back into the end of the week. With a pattern like this on GWPH, I personally would be focused more on the longer term time frame, and it might even be worth being patient enough to wait for a weekly trend change if we're going to get interested here. And if we look at the monthly time frame, it's just a lack of clarity. We saw a bear break into a bull break into a loss of the higher lows, so just when something is not clear, I don't trade it, and I find something that is clear to me to trade. IIPR had news of increasing their dividend, which they have been very consistently doing over the last year or two, but it didn't do a ton as far as changing momentum. We're still in a downtrend. Anything under 103.58 is a daily lower high. At this point, the bulls would have to top out, come down and hold 82, and then see continuation to change that daily trend. The weekly time frame is in a downtrend. We are looking for a monthly higher low to be set, so that alone is enough to have some interest. Just keep in mind that the market will likely perceive any progress on the SAFE Act as bearish for IIPR, at least in the short term. So just something to be aware of. And worth potentially watching for a daily higher low to form and a play off of 82.15 support. CURA, daily inside bar on Friday, so it's going to be a clear bear break if we break 957 and 962. Those are two key short-term support levels. And if the bulls can hold those levels and make their way back up to 1075 resistance, that would be a good save by the bulls, because right now this 4-hour time frame has the potential to be a head and shoulders pattern, which we were pointing out, I believe, on Thursday, where if we form this right shoulder, can't get back up to 1075 and then roll over and break support, that would lose the daily uptrend, and that would be a bit of a short-term red flag for bulls. CWeb coming out of nowhere the last 2 days on increasing bull volume. So this is what I'm talking about. CWeb was the weakest name to start the week, one of the weaker names in the USMJ space. And then to end the week, the last 2 days, it was one of the stronger names. And it broke its key resistance of 23.81, and we now have a convincing daily trend change. We saw the low, high of the bounce, a lot of consolidation, and then continuation. So weekly higher low definitely looks like it has been set at $20, and now we're going to look for a weekly lower high compared to 30.10, and for this range to continue to tighten. And if we condense things on the 2-week time frame, we can look at it as the potential of an equilibrium forming with our high, low, lower high, higher low, and watching to see if we form a lower high compared to 30.10. But a nice shift in momentum, at least in the short term, and a close at the high of the day. We'll see if we get some follow through. Next clear resistance level, 24.48 and 25.03. TRUL has also had a great week last week, fending off the potential of another leg down and getting further and further above their summer lows so far. So at this point, we are about 26% above that level, which is a good sign. We are just looking for a weekly lower high compared to 1431. But what this size of this move does is opens up the possibility of a weekly inverse head and shoulders, where if we can't break 1431 resistance, pull back, form a weekly higher low, and then see a trend change. That's what the bulls are going to have to do to change the longer term momentum. But this volume definitely stands out to me on the weekly time frame. That's a lot of volume We had a volume spike on the weekly time frame up at the top, and we're watching to see, is this volume spike marking the bottom as well? And on any consolidation, when we lose the hourly uptrend, we're going to look for a daily higher low compared to 1036. IAN daily bear flag confirmed, continues to drop down to lower lows, clearly the weakest US MSO out there, and anything on the daily chart under 333 is just a lower high. So we could go 9% on Monday and Tuesday and still be in a daily lower high pattern. The bulls have a lot of work to do to try and shift momentum. And again, the big bear volume spikes are what stands out on this chart over the last 5-6 weeks. Medmen is number 2 weakest US MSO. We dropped down and broke 251 support, which means 241 and 228 are the only 2 support levels nearby. So those key support levels are on watch. Anything on the daily chart under 282 is just a lower high, keeping those bears in control. OH pulling back very significantly, and a lot of this has to do with CL weakness, which we'll look at in just a second. So even though there is a discount for OH compared to CL, we're going to be tied to what CL does to a large degree. So short-term support 784 broke. We have lost the daily higher low pattern. When we bounce, we're going to be looking for a daily lower high to form, and that's going to shift my game plan a little bit. I'm going to look to shave a little bit off on a bounce for a daily lower high because we're less confident. If we're not in a clear daily higher low pattern, it makes us a bit less confident, and we're watching for the potential of this to be an inverse head and shoulders pattern. And again, these inverse weekly head and shoulders patterns that I point out are pretty much best case scenario for the bulls. So we had resistance at 955. We rejected from 917. That may be our right neckline. And if we consolidate for a weekly higher low, we would then have to turn around and break those 2 resistance levels to convincingly change the weekly trend. And you could say again, well, didn't we already change the weekly trend? Compared to other US MSOs and the MJ sector as a whole, that's enough for it to be a clear shift in momentum for me off of 673 support. But all it takes is just changing the time frame just a little bit to make things look different. And I actually don't like the way that the 2-week time frame works. But my point is that clear rejection from that 955 resistance level is going to need another weekly higher low to form for the bulls to reestablish themselves and then make another attempt. CL, this is where the weakness in OH is coming from, mostly in my opinion. The significant pullback, 1035, 1001, and 940 as a few support levels, but just going straight from the high, very clearly struggling at 1250. Look at all these rejections we've had from 1250 resistance and a significant pullback when the bulls were unable to get over those levels. So on a bounce here, we will be looking for a daily lower high as well because we have pulled back roughly 18% or so. And on the weekly time frame for CL, we could be headed back down to test these lows. So we do have to be cautious. Again, spike in bear volume on that rejection definitely stands out. HARV has had a significant pullback. We have to form a higher low compared to 531 and break 752 to clearly change this trend. But due to the size of the pullback at this point, when we do change the hourly trend, I would just be looking for a daily lower high to form and for this range to tighten up through September. Bulls have to see a break. We have a double bottom Thursday and Friday. Have to break 669 on Monday for our daily higher low to be set and to then look for that lower high. GTII still holding on, very similar to Cura with its pullback and then its inside bar, but a big upper wick on its inside bar. And there is Cura Leaf. So we're just looking for a daily higher low to form, and we're not confident that higher low has been set yet because we didn't change the hourly trend. We have an hourly equilibrium forming, and if that equilibrium breaks bullish, our daily higher low will be set at 1241. And if it breaks bearish, then our daily higher low has not been set, and we'll still be looking for one compared to 1117. KSHB dropping down, 351, support being tested, and on the verge of the weekly bear flag being confirmed. And if we break 351, there is no support nearby. It'll be the lowest price we've seen in a very long time. Next support after 351, we're looking down at 305 from January 2018. So see our KSHB losing lots of favor with the way the bears have had control here. And we've seen these breaks. We were watching a weekly equilibrium that broke bearish a long time ago. That bear break occurred in April, and it's been nothing but bear follow through. CVSI, also still very weak. Anything on the daily time frame under 348 is just a lower high in my opinion. trying to build a base down at $3 and hold this support to prevent from another leg down. And it's a potential bottom fishing play off of 298 support. Bulls have to hold 298 and break 389 to change this weekly trend. NBEV. So its bounce, weekly time frame, we're just looking for a lower high to form. It is a potential weekly bear flag at this point, so we have to be cautious of that. Daily high or low, anything above 302 keeps the uptrend intact. Resistance of 330 and 346. And the bulls are going to have to see a bull cross of these exponential moving averages, the 12 and 26 period on the daily chart, if we're going to be confident in the weekly chart not being a bear flag. So this group of names, CVSI, NBEV, KSHB, pretty much names that are not MSOs, are definitely struggling. The MSOs have seen more strength in their bounces. A lot of names went 20 to 40% in the last few weeks off of their summer lows, and definitely not seeing that trickle down into these other USMJ plays that are not multi-state operators. PYX, if we see a bear break, we'll have our equilibrium playing out. So we have our low, high, higher low, lower high, and we're scouting a higher low. So if we drop down and break 1462, we're looking for a higher low to form around 14 or so. If the bulls can hold on here, you could make the argument it's a cup and handle pattern. Left side of resistance, consolidation, inability to break it on the right side, potential bull flag, but the bulls have to show up first thing this coming week and break 1560 and then $16 to confirm this cup and handle pattern. And the weekly time frame is building this base of support and on the verge of changing this trend. This is definitely one to watch this coming week. I just got interested in PYX, $16 key level. ZYNE, 1251 resistance, couldn't break. You can make the same argument. Left side of the cup, inability to break it, trying for a little bull flag to maintain the daily uptrend, have to hold 1119 and break 1243 and 1251 to convincingly shift that momentum. And again, the weekly time frame trying to change the trend here, higher low, and have to break 1251 for that higher high. CXXI is all bears. 67 is the only support level nearby. Every single bounce on the daily is just a lower high. And after 67 is the all-time low of 62. And CXXI is not looking good in any way, shape, or form, technically speaking. And again, the numbers can be great. The fundamentals can be great. And this is a lesson that a lot of people learn in penny stocks. If you have convertible debt, and I have not read the financials of CXXI, but when I look at this chart, it reminds me of penny stocks that have convertible debt and dilution, where it doesn't matter what the story is or how much demand there is for shares, there is a never-ending supply that keeps the price contained. So anything on the daily time frame under 80 cents is just a lower high, and it's all about 62, the all-time low. Tilt is extremely weak. Equilibrium bear break. These penny stocks in this sector are just getting absolutely crushed, and it's part of the reason why dollar volume is one reason, but I don't even have any interest in these penny stocks because I know if the leaders in the sector are struggling, it's going to hit those penny stocks much harder. Just like when there's euphoria in the sector, the percentage gains on the small caps can be higher because they're more thinly traded and that increased demand moves the price more. But here we are at all-time lows. Can we go down to 20 cents? Why can't we? Again, I don't know what the financials are for Tilt, but a chart like this tells me there's probably some convertible debt and dilution going on. So anything on the daily chart for Tilt under 72 cents is just a lower high. And the pain certainly more significant. Pretty much everybody in the second half of this video I don't have any interest in. KSHB onward, aside from PYX, which just caught my eye. But KSHB onwards, I have no interest in these names. And it's hard for me to keep interest in the US MSOs. There's certainly some that have stood out, but that's where our focus is going to be, the names that are larger cap and will have more interest from larger institutions when we do get some banking reform. And in my opinion, that's where the focus should be. So I appreciate you watching. We'll see what this week does. Canadian MJ Bulls are on the ropes here, and they need to see a clear bull break this coming week. And if that happens, pretty much any upside sentiment in the Canadian MJ sector, in my opinion, can only help the US MJ sector as well. And we'll be keeping an eye on the potential progress in the banking bills that are getting a little bit of hope. So we'll have to see if we vote. Some predictions have said that we're going to see a vote from the House on the SAFE Act by the end of September, which means within 2 weeks. And if that were to take place, then we watch the Senate, which is the hurdle, the bigger hurdle that we have to get over. Hope you have a good rest of your weekend. Do good things out there, and we'll see you this week. I attached some videos here at the end of the ducks when I first got to the property and the ducks when I last saw them, and just getting ready for them to fly south for the winter at any point in the near term future, but a really interesting comparison at what a difference 4 months makes.
It's a party. It's a bird party.